AITA for selling my father's house even though his widow lives there? My 33F father died recently. He had been married to his widow, Penny, for about 7 years before. I was not close with my father. We spoke regularly and enjoyed each other's company. But I can't say either of us knew each other well. For many years before his death, when he died, I was surprised to learn that he had left his entire estate to me. He put everything in trust a year before his death and I am the sole beneficiary. Besides a small sum that he left to Penny, the lawyer said he was advised not to leave her nothing in case she tried to contest it. Everything, including his house, is now mine. My father's lawyers and mine have advised that the will is structured such that it would be near impossible and very expensive to challenge. I don't want my father's money. I don't need it, and given our relationship I don't feel right using it. However, he obviously wanted me to have it. So, I intend to transfer everything over to my daughter. Make her the beneficiary of the trust and she will have that in addition to her own trust fund once she is of age. However, I do not want to keep my father's house. I do not live in the same country as my father and I do not want to deal with the admin of his possessions. I want the legal business done and to close the book on a very painful chapter. And grieve quietly. The trouble is, Penny lives in the house. Penny does not work and was financially dependent on my father. So while the lawyers say she could fight to stay living in the house, she likely can't afford legal counsel. Also, because of her lack of income she would never be able to maintain the house, which is quite large. So I would then have to keep up the house and grounds while she lived there, which I am not willing to do, both because of the cost and because of the continued involvement with my father's life, which I do not want. I have notified her via the lawyers of the intention to sell the house, which has led to vicious and vitriolic messages from her kids calling me evil and heartless. I understand this is inconvenient for them, but I'm not responsible for what my father decided to do. Nor am I responsible for the people or the mess he left behind. I am not doing this to get one over on Penny. I'm just trying to be done with a traumatic part of my life. AITA? Once you have set a price with your realtor, give her and her family a chance to purchase the house before you list it. Then, if they refuse, go ahead and sell. NTA. Because of the cost for upkeep that you can't afford, I'm going to go with nah. Accept your father. Because I find it unconscionable that all he left to his widow was a small sum and even that only to avoid her contesting it. Why on earth was he married to someone he cares so little about? In Ta, your father definitely is an AITA Penny. Your dad did a terrible thing by not making provisions to provide for his widow upon his death. He intentionally left her with no means of support and no money other than the small amount to make it harder to contest the will. I would talk to Penny, find out what she's thinking. What happened? If she can shed any light on why your dad did what he did. And then, since it sounds like she is a decent person and you don't need or want the money from the sale of the house, see if she would be amenable to receiving part of the proceeds so that she can buy or rent a place for herself. That way, she is not left out in the cold. Ethically and morally, I think this is the right thing to do. As for the bad messages from her kids, think of it from their perspective. Their mom just lost her husband. The husband disinherited her, and she is about to lose her home. In their situation, I'd be pretty disgusted with your family. It is understandable that they would lash out, maybe not right, but understandable. You have the power to make this situation okay though. Be a better man than your dad. Sorry for your loss. You said this might be your father's way of punishing Penny for a small offense. Is it possible this is his way of punishing you, too? At the same time, he certainly created an uncomfortable situation for both of you. In any case, you are NTA. You have no interest in maintaining the house. And Penny would be financially unable to maintain it even if you gifted it to her. So selling it is clearly the best approach. That said, you aren't obligated to follow your father's wishes. You could be more generous toward Penny than he was. If you choose to be. I don't think vicious messages from her children would inspire me to feel generous. But perhaps you are kinder than I am. NTA. Offer to sell the house to Penny and or her kids. If they can't afford it, then they shouldn't complain that you won't let her live there rent-free. Your dad has been unfair to her. Sure, but that's not your fault nor responsibility. Penny isn't an asshole for being upset. Her kids are kind of assholes for being little harassing losers. I'm genuinely warmed by the empathy shown in this thread for your dad's wife. Op knows his dad was different, vindictive, narcissistic, petty. You don't care about the house or money. It would be kind of you to assist in a small apartment for her. Or at the very least, even if it's in a trust in your daughter's name, so that his widower is not left homeless. You don't need the money, and what your dad left for you is all extra for your daughter. NTA. But can her kids afford to buy you out and let her stay there? NTA. The house is yours and you don't want to be burdened with homeownership. Penny's kids can take her in if she can't afford housing on her own. NTA. If Penny has the means, she can buy the house from you. Or her children can buy it for her. If she does not have the means, she was probably planning to mooch off you. Honestly, if my father was someone toxic enough that I cut contact with him, and then he was using me to treat his wife that way, I would refuse to be used that way. I know I am in the minority, but I would say that if you take the full inheritance, then you are about as much an asshole as your father. NTA. Let her kids take her in. Your dad structured his will like that for a reason. It's none of your business. YTA. Death sucks. Grieving sucks. You don't get to make a widow surprise homeless because you have baggage. It's fine to contact Penny through lawyers. Since you don't seem to need the money from the house, you could offer to give it to her, sell it to her at a discount, or set a negotiated sell date with some or all of the profits set aside for her to move into a new place. Might this drag this out another few months? Yep. Will that suck? Absolutely. But it would be the right thing to do. Penny deserves a chance to try and keep her home. Or the time to find a new one. You owe her that as a fellow human being. Yikes. Your dad is the aw. You have no legal obligation. However, ethically and morally I could not live with myself. Her children should be rallying and even get a loan to help her contest and at least be able to stay in her house until she passes and then goes to op. She has rights and states recognize this. She should fight it. Not to inherit the house per se, but have a place to live. Since you don't want the money and she can't afford to keep the house, would you ever consider selling it and split the money with her? Or like a small portion, down payment for a new place? From the sounds of it, your dad was a piece of work, so maybe she earned. And I say that for lack of a better term. Part of that being that she likely kept up the house and paid for things to get done there. You're NTA, but your father was to leave his wife no home and very little financial help after 7 years of marriage. Damn. YTA. You say you don't want your dad's money, but selling the house he left you is still taking his money. In a way, your daughter has 2 trust funds now. So I guess you don't need that money. You said your father probably wrote off Penny out of spite over a minor thing. It's really possible your father was financially abusing Penny. Since she was dependent on him, it's not your obligation, but it still feels unfeeling and callous. Leaving someone homeless when you don't need or want the resources that are this vital to them. But maybe I care too much about others. YTA, if you are not aware of anything the wife has done to warrant such actions by her late husband, give her the house. Or sell it and give her the proceeds. You have no interest in the money. But she was married to him and you've admitted that he might have done it out of some small irritation. Keep the rest in trust. This isn't what is legally right or wrong, but whether or not you are ta. YTA. Just for the can't afford legal counsel. Sounds like she does have a claim, but can't get someone to defend her. You have more money than you need. She has less. Buy the house from her. YTA. If you don't want it, give it to her. What does it matter if she can't upkeep it? Let her sell it then. Being legally right doesn't make you morally in the clear. Or you sell it and give her some of the proceeds after talking to lawyers. You're continuing your father's toxicity and being heartless when you don't even need the money. It doesn't make her kids right, but you're certainly not ethically right either.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.